Welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. Thank you, Suzanne, for that music that set the tone for our service. Welcome to all of you, whether this is your first time with us or it's your several hundredth time. Welcome if your heart is heavy or if it is joyous. Welcome if you're feeling broken, less than, or if in this moment you feel calm and whole. Welcome if you are unsure if you are welcome here. And welcome if you found welcome here. May our time together be a time out of time that gives us bread for the journey, that lifts us up, giving us sustenance and courage to do the simplest and most complex things that must be done, not just to live in our world, but to save our world. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. Welcome to community. Welcome to worship. Welcome. I would like to invite anybody who is a first-time visitor to go to the chat where Kat is going to drop in a new visitor form. And I just want to say we forgot to do that last week. And I really missed finding out who was visiting us for the first time and being able to reach out to you either by phone or by email. And thank you all for filling that form out. It's great to make contact with you, and welcome to our community. Two things, y'all, you need to get it together and offer your baked goods, or we're going to have two people offering them and nobody's going to get any. Okay. We need people to offer baked goods for our holiday winter sort of celebration. And we only have two people who've sent in pictures of their holiday traditions. We need more or the whole thing is going to be a flop. You can check the weekly connections to get information about how to submit either your pictures or your videos and how to sign up to donate baked goods that then can be picked up on December 19th. Because people are supposed to start ordering these things this Wednesday. So get with the program, folks. This was my idea, I think. So let's do it. Something else I'm very excited about. Katie and I finished the Wall of Lamentation, and the Building and Grounds Committee installed it on Tuesday. Where is it? It's on the east wall under the covered walkway facing the Conestoga huts. And you're going to say, what wall? Well, it's a brick wall. And what Katie and I did is we took curly willow, and then we wove in between that salted cedar and pieces of willow. And I will put out this week little tags that you can write your, whatever it is that's on your heart or mind, and tie it onto that or stick it in between that salt cedar and willow to stay. Nobody's going to go and look at all that and invade your privacy, but I really encourage you, even if you're not going to put anything in it, to go by and look at it. What I love about it is we didn't have to pay anything for it. It's all natural organic material, and Katie and I had a blast doing it. Two shouts out today. First of all, to all of you who have participated in everything that the search team has asked you to do so far. And a huge shout out of appreciation to our search team, because they have had to do the work of, I don't know how many months, in like this many months, because we got a late start. And everything is due December 2nd. What do I mean by everything? We submit what's known as a congregational record, and then ministers who are in search read it. And that begins this whole process where it's called elaborate. It's kind of like the matchmaking that happens in Judaism. So it's a very elaborate matchmaking process, and they've been working all this weekend. They're working today. They're doing an incredible job. So hats off to them. If you think about it, send them an email or a note and thank them for their work. And unless, Katie, have I forgotten anything? Anything? Okay, no? Okay. So let us continue on with our worship with the lighting of our chalice from our friend Grayson.
T starts out with turkey and tofu and together. H reminds us of happiness. May it grow beyond all measure. A means all who are returning, a reunion in fall. N for newcomers to our fellowship, and hearty welcome to all. K for kind friends with whom we will share dinner. S means surely you'll have fun, but you won't get thinner. G is generosity, to share what we've been given. I for integrity, may we bring it to our living. V is very special because of each one here. We give thanks for individuals, for each one is so dear. N stands for this nation, and its challenges and strength. G reminds us of our blessings and calls us to give thanks.
So Advent is the arrival or coming of. And it is the Christian season of preparation and waiting for the birth of the Prince of Peace, the Christ child. It is celebrated on the 4 Sundays prior to Christmas, and each Sunday carries with it a theme as well as scripture from the lectionary that address those themes. Hope and faith or preparation, joy or rejoicing, and love. As with most holy days of the Jewish and Christian year, the roots of Advent are to be found in pagan traditions. Evergreen wreaths were brought into homes in the darkness of winter as reminders of the eternal cycle of the seasons. Candles were lit to celebrate the slow and steady return of light. Here at UUCE, we light these ancient symbols of the cycle of the seasons and the inbreaking of light into our winter darkness. Each Sunday, we too celebrate hope and faith, joy and peace for ourselves and for the world. May this season be a celebration of the coming of light and peace into our winter's darkness. And so on this first Sunday in Advent, which is the season of the inbreaking of light in the darkness, we light our candle of hope. We light this candle of hope in the hope that light will break into the world's darkness and suffering and grant us comfort. Now, these words from Denise Levertov. An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. A gratitude had begun to sing in me. Was there some moment dividing song from no song? When does dewfall begin? When does night fold its arms over our hearts to cherish them? When is daybreak?
Would you join me in the spirit of meditation? This is a physical meditation that I'm going to try and demonstrate for you. And just know that even if you can't move certain parts of your body, I want you to think about energy in those parts of your body. I often do a body scan at night, and I practice moving energy literally from my each and every toe, all up my whole body, and then out the top of my head. If you're able, or if you're willing, would you sit with your hands on your knees? Now turn your right hand on its side. So it looks like, hang on, let me move for you. So it looks like this. Now lift it out toward your screen. Now bring the chi, the energy, back in and bring it down right to your belly. And keep that hand there. Turn your left hand over on your knee. Move it toward the screen and all who are behind that screen, and bring that energy, that chi, back toward your body, to your belly. Slide your right hand up to your chest, bringing that chi up. Extend the hand out. Bring your hand down to your right knee. Turn it so it's folded flat on your knee. Let's repeat it with our left hand. Bring the chi up to our heart. Bring it out. Bring it back down to your knee and turn it over. Take both of your hands and clasp them over your heart. and say these words to yourself after I say them. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. Hold your hands out just a little in front of you and think of those whom you love and offer them this message saying, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. Think of any person that you have hurt or are in a fractured relationship and offer them saying to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. Offer this blessing beyond any person you might know, saying, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. Namaste. I want to introduce this next song. One time I was at a Unitarian Universalist regional gathering and we were about to have dinner and somebody said, sing a grace. And my friend, the singer-songwriter Judy Phil, and I were there and she said, Unitarians don't seem to have any graces. So we set about writing several of them. This is not the most profound of graces, but it's a simple one. It's an easy one. I wrote the words and Judy put it to music, and I offer it to you as something that we can teach. And Judy very kindly recorded it for me this week. And take it away, Kat.
Hi, this is a song about gratitude, so I'd like you to think of some things that you're thankful for. And I'll start with a couple of verses, and then on the fourth time through, there'll be places for you to sing things that you're thankful for. They don't have to rhyme or make sense, just stick them in the song. It's called a zipper song. This is gratitude. 1, 2, 3. In the morning, gratitude. Then at noon, gratitude. In the evening, gratitude. And at bedtime, peace. Breakfast time, gratitude. Lunch time, gratitude. Dinner time, gratitude. And at bedtime, peace. Your turn now. Do, do, do. Gratitude. Do, do, do. Gratitude. Do, do, do. Gratitude. And at bedtime, peace. One more time. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Dee, 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 dee. In the morning, gratitude. Then at noon, gratitude. In the evening, gratitude. And at bedtime, peace.
My first reading is from Thich Nhat Hanh, Peace is Every Step, The Path of Mindfulness in Everyday Life. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. My second reading is from A.A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh. Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude.
I was thinking a lot about our winter holidays, and I realized that they are layered with traditions that are either based on sentimentality or misinformation. Thanksgiving, which we just passed, is no exception, and it's been culturally preserved and handed down as a lovely myth, totally devoid of the realities of its origin, namely the genocide of indigenous persons due to exposure to European illnesses, intentional slaughter, and enslavement. Where many of us celebrate Thanksgiving as a joyous festivity that brings together disparate cultures, it's been observed as a day of mourning by indigenous persons in this country since the early 1970s. Yet again, just like the political polling from this last election, Hallmark, Gala wines, they failed us. The images that we've been presented with are myths. Rather than perpetuate the misinformation around holidays like Thanksgiving, we can refuse to celebrate it, we can tell its truth, or we can try and transform it. The Wampanoag peoples who inhabited the land that the Pilgrims would seize held an annual 3-day autumn harvest feast that also included storytelling and games and rituals. When you think about it, that storytelling and the games and the rituals is a way of reaffirming and celebrating one's culture. And because in that particular year, after the Pilgrims had been starving, that the Wampanoag had readied themselves for this annual celebration, they had enough to offer the Pilgrims. In 1623, the Pilgrims' crops were failing because of lack of rain. They held a day of humiliation during which they prayed for rain. And when the rains finally came later in the fall and their crops were saved, Governor William Bradford proclaimed November 29th as a day of Thanksgiving. And that proclamation would later become confused with a shooting party that the Pilgrims held in 1621. Some of the Pilgrims began to move west in search of land, which brought them into direct conflict with the indigenous peoples who already lived in that land. The Pequot people were destroyed by the Pilgrims. Many of them were captured and sold into slavery. Boatloads with as many as 500 enslaved Native Americans left from the harbors of New England. In 1641, the Dutch governor of Manhattan offered a bounty for every indigenous scalp, a practice that was common, scalping and offering bounties in European countries. They joined forces with the Puritans to exterminate Native peoples. And a second official day of Thanksgiving was declared after a massacre that included kicking the heads of indigenous persons through the streets. They often held days of Thanksgiving after each such massacre. It was George Washington who brought an order to these celebrations when he declared one day as the day to be celebrated as Thanksgiving. Abraham Lincoln decreed Thanksgiving a national holiday during the Civil War, on the same day that he ordered US troops to march against the Lakota Nation in Minnesota. These are the facts of Thanksgiving. We have a choice about what to do with those facts. But we need to recognize that that choice is not neutral. To fail to acknowledge the realities over the myth of Thanksgiving is to perpetuate harm to indigenous peoples. Excuse me, I have to let my dog out or you're going to hear woofing the whole time. Hey, go. Come on. Out. Very professional of me. I was saying that there are indigenous persons who've called for Thanksgiving to be a day of not just mourning, but fasting. Some of us choose to ignore the holiday. Others of us try to reclaim it as a day of gratitude or a harvest celebration that is ripped from the myth. Some of us make it all about special foods and gathering those whom we love and strangers at our tables. I think we have a responsibility to educate ourselves and one another not just about the myth of Thanksgiving, but about all the myths that have shaped our American culture. I happen to be one of those who has a sentimental attachment to the holiday that has nothing to do with the myths or the facts. I'm sentimental about the table decorations that my mother set. Growing up back east amidst maple trees in autumn, I remember many walks in the street in the rain through piles of multi-hued greens and yellows and oranges and red leaves. We would kick them along in our rubber boots, and the air had this thick, earthy smell. My mother would gather some of these leaves and she would press them between wax paper and she would iron them so that they would keep. And she would put them on the table. She had a vase that was kind of like two semi-half circles. They were dark clay and they sat like this in relationship to one another on the table. Bittersweet, which is known as an invasive vine that my family happened to love, would spill from the vases, laying down its red and orange yellow berries on the table. Uncracked nuts would be arranged in little rivers across the tablecloth. Thanksgiving was an adopted holiday by my immigrant parents. It was an assimilationist holiday for us, with no referencing facts or myths, but you celebrated it. It wasn't about the past, it was about the present. American football was not a part of our Thanksgiving, nor any part of our life, nor was anything pumpkin. We had fruit salad and my mother's hazelnut torte. I didn't know they were called filberts until I moved to Oregon. And we had this chestnut stuffing that my brother still makes today, every year swearing that my mother left out some key ingredient in the recipe that she passed on to him. Her cranberry sauce was sweet and sour, a mix of cranberries with orange rind and a ton of sugar, an acquired taste. The meal was not served mid-afternoon, but at the regular dinner hour, 6 o'clock sharp. We always had the same people over and various relatives who were in attendance. In my early adulthood, I became a vegetarian. And I spent my first vegetarian Thanksgiving chasing food around my plate with the chopsticks that I had been given as utensils. All very politically correct back then. We weren't going to put metal in our mouths. And during my final year in divinity school, in an effort to be a mature adult, I offered to host my parents, their close friend, and my mother's cousin for Thanksgiving. My former partner and I had rented somebody's vacation cottage on Long Island Sound for the year. It was probably 648 square feet. It was uninsulated. It had a tiny wood stove to heat with, and I had to ask my parents to bring lawn chairs so that they had some place to sit. Now, being a vegetarian, I had forbidden my mother to cook a turkey in our home. So she announced that she was bringing a steak to broil instead. So much for a vegetarian meal. That particular Thanksgiving, it was freezing cold. In fact, there was snow on the screened-in porch. One of the cats had apparently found the vegetarian pate that I had put out there to cool. And they'd eaten part of it. Frankly, they had decimated it, and we had to cut away the parts that they had decimated so that we could share. The problem was that it also frozen when it was out there. We had the wood stove cranked up as hot as we could safely do so. You have about a 50-50 chance of exceeding the first time you try adulting. To say that I was nervous does not do justice to the state that I was in. The pate was a disaster. When my mother broiled the steak in the oven that I had forbidden her to cook a turkey in, the entire house filled with smoke, which sent my partner running around, throwing open windows, which consistently and consequently let all the heat out and all the cold in. Everyone was on their best polite behavior, even if we were wearing our coats and our gloves and our hats. As a tribute to my mother, I had decided to make her hazelnut torte. I handed her the knife so that she would have the honor of cutting it for us. I had no idea that the thing had the consistency of a hockey puck, nor that it would go flying like a frisbee when my mother took a knife to it, at which point everyone let go with laughter. I never hosted my parents and their friends for any meal ever again. We're a sentimental family. So much had been riding on that one visit and meal. I wanted to give back to my parents. I wanted to honor my mother by making her tort. I wanted her to have a break from always having to make the holidays happen. I wanted to prove that I was an adult. I have not attempted that tort since the hockey puck moment, but I still always make her special citrus fruit salad for every holiday. Our son never met my mother, but he knows all about the Oma's chocolate cake. I gave up long ago trying to replicate her table decorations, but I keep her legacy and food traditions alive. For years, my former partner and I had Thanksgiving with another couple. After stuffing ourselves into a stupor that not even a walk could shake, we would read aloud from Winnie the Pooh, each one of us acting out different parts. Mark was always Piglet, and he was a marvelous Eeyore as well. Other than eating the ice cream right out of the ice cream maker in the middle of the kitchen floor where we were sitting making it, the reading of Winnie the Pooh became my favorite part of Thanksgiving. And it was in those years that we began sharing the things we were grateful for before we ate. They were serious gratitudes because we were quite serious people who were dedicated to saving the world. I was young. But as the years progressed, Thanksgiving became less about food and the myth of the holiday, and more about resisting the cultural pressure of it. It focused on gratitude. It focused on giving thanks. Worship services that I helped create that would fall on either side of Thanksgiving were all about attitudes of gratitude. And just as here at UUCE, we have asked persons from all kinds of decades to share what they intend to do with their, quote, one wild and precious life, I had asked folks across the decades to share their attitudes of gratitude. These were always some of the best services of the year. I know that much has been made these past years of cultivating attitudes of gratitude. We are told to keep gratitude journals, to begin and end our day with gratitudes. And when we don't feel it, to act as if until we actually do feel it. Because gratitude is transformative. It can lead to humility, that fertile ground where life deepens and comes alive in a sustained way. In this winter season, there's so much buildup to particular days or events that are suddenly over. And the anticipation actually exceeds the actual event. And little of all that hype spills over or carries on. And we wonder why we're left sort of empty and disappointed. But moving from presence to presence, the presence of gratitude and the ensuing humility, allows us to live fulfilled rather than let down for days and weeks and months to come. Gratitude allows us to focus on abundance rather than on scarcity, on what we have, what is before us rather than on what is missing or anticipated. It allows us to be here now, as Ram Dass said, in the moment, present. It seeks nothing but the present, knows that it's enough. To be captured by an attitude of gratitude is to be fully awake and alive. There's a Zen story that I've always loved. It's about a monk, a thief, and the moon. A Zen master, Ryokan, lived a life of simplicity in his hut near the mountains. When he was away one night, a thief broke in only to find nothing worth stealing. Just then Ryokan returned. He said to the burglar, "You have traveled far to visit me. I cannot let you return empty-handed. So here are my clothes. Please accept them as a gift." The baffled thief, he took the clothes and he vanished. Naked now, the master gazed at the moon. "Poor man," he sighed. "How I wish I could give him this glorious moon." I know that this story may be a bit extreme for we secular Westerners, but it illustrates that gratitude begets gratitude. It gives birth to the impulse of generosity. Just attitudinally, it changes how we experience the world. What may have only been seen as an obstacle can shift on its axis toward opportunity and possibility. When we greet those whom we encounter with gratitude just because they exist, when every encounter is viewed as a potential gift, our lives are opened and readied for transformation. That quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that Grayson read, "Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet," it kind of sums up what I mean by an attitude of gratitude. It's not just encouragement to tread lightly, but to treat the earth as beloved and to treat it with love. It's encouragement to metaphorically live in gratitude for all of life and to kiss it as a show of our affection, our love. How incredibly transformative it would be to live and be in this world as one who moved in it as if we were kissing the earth with our feet, to live from affection and gratitude. Even in this time of uncertainty, the pandemic, potential economic, social, and political peril, there's room for gratitude. For gratitude's not just reserved for what we want, it's also offered for what we receive. It is offered for all the ways the light gets in through the cracks in this time of darkness. I remember one church person who shared her attitude of gratitude about her obesity, something many only saw as a disability or a burden or repugnant. This person embraced who they were and refused to see themselves that way and gave gratitude. It's almost as if in this time, we're all participating in a gratitude scavenger hunt. You know, this year it's no surprise we can't celebrate Thanksgiving or solstice or Hanukkah or Christmas the way we have always celebrated them. It would be courting serious risk. But what if we focused less on what's been lost, less on what we can't do, and more on what's been found or discovered or reclaimed? What about offering gratitude for those things, those ways of being that we've developed or been willing to explore? What if COVID affords us an opportunity to break away from the tradition of spending more money than we have, giving people we feel obligated to things they may not need or want that eventually find their way to our landfills or oceans? What if we let go of what we think we have lost to imagine what we really want this year, this time of year, to be about? What if we sent out gratitude cards instead of Christmas cards at this time of year? Sending thank yous and appreciations and gratitudes to the people in our lives? If Piglet, owner of a capital V, very capital S, small capital H heart, noticed that he could hold a rather large amount of gratitude in his heart, can't any of us? Gratitude's not just a response. It's a choice. It's a practice. It's a discipline. We have to make a lot of choices at this time of year. Will we indeed buy presents for people? Which people in our lives? How much are we willing to spend? How are we going to wrap those gifts? Are we going to make donations to charities that we support in children's names? Did we succumb to Black Friday? There's still time for Cyber Monday. Are we going to go wild with shopping therapy? Are we going to eat, drink, and be merry to excess? Or give up sugar for the time being and practice moderation? To tree or not to tree? Plastic or live? Cut or potted? Where to buy those candles? And what material should they be made out of? Should they be soy? Should they have a scent? Should they be beeswax? What should they be? And can we really ethically travel at this time? How do we decide whose family we're going to go to for what holiday, or in this year, who we're going to disappoint because we aren't going anywhere? To live blithely into myths and stories that are not just untrue, but harmful to those who are indigenous? Or to reject them outright, engage in truth-telling, and find ways to transform our celebrations? I got to tell you that for next year's winter holidays, all I want is to be with people that I love, gathered around a table in person, to be able to touch them, to hug them, to laugh unabashedly, to eat simply. Not necessarily anything traditional, well, maybe except perhaps the Oma's fruit salad and her chocolate cake. Maybe to make my sentimentality a reality by gathering leaves and pressing them between wax paper, finding a Northwest vine with berries and spilling nuts on a table. To take the grandbaby for a walk and to see what she is drawn to. To spend some time giving thanks for the bounty that is my life. To give thanks for life itself. Gratitude is a lifestyle. It can be taught. It can be adopted or modeled or shared or named. Gratitude is a doorway to the fullness of life. It's an invitation and a choice. Will you choose gratitude?
Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Keep walking, though there's no place to get to. Don't try to see through the distances. That's not for human beings. Move within, but do not move the way fear makes you move today. Today, like any other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the storm and begin to read today. Like any other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Take down an instrument of music. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground.
Each of us carries in our hearts those joys and gratitudes, those sorrows and despairs that touch our lives. And we invite you now to enter what you would like to share with this community into our chat as Suzanne plays. This morning, we share joy for this message of gratitude. Gratitude for community support, for healing, for family, and for forgiveness. We share sorrow for the increasing threat of the pandemic as it continues to touch our lives in more and more close and personal ways, and sorrows as we face our losses, whether that be loss of work, loss of loved ones, loss of connection. Joy for the connections we can have, joy for our animal companions and the fruits of the earth that we get to share with those we love, for this holiday season and the ability that we have to imbue it with new meaning. Joy and gratitude for those who continue to serve our homeless population and our world. For all of these joys and all of these sorrows, as well as those that you continue to hold in your hearts, we lift up our prayer.
You want to join us in our closing hymn, For All That Is Our Life? For what lies behind us, gratitude. For what lies before us, gratitude. For this present moment, gratitude. So be it. Blessed be. Amen.